Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and hi, we are from group 3. Today we will present our group project Mudajaya Group Berhad. Here is our table of content for this presentation. Introduction. Background of the company. Mudajaya Group Berhad operates as an investment holding company. Mudajaya operates in 4 segments. First one is construction, which is engaged in undertaking civil engineering, construction works and engineering and equipment procurement provider. Number 2, property development, which is engaged in the development of residential and commercial properties. Number 3, trading and plant hiring, which is engaged in trading in construction materials and hire of plants. And lastly, manufacturing, which is engaged in manufacturing various precast concrete products. Mudajaya operates in Malaysia, India, Republic of Mauritius, and Negara Brunei Darussalam. Mudajaya was founded in 2003 and based in Shah Alam, Selangor, Malaysia. The company is listed in Bursa Malaysia under the main market. Vision and mission of the company. Vision: to be the preferred leader in the construction, property development, and renewable energy industry. Next, to provide good infrastructure and energy requirement to society. Mudajaya Group also wanted to strive in looking ahead beyond expectation and goals by integrating technical excellence, commitment, and leveraging on the competency of our people. Mission: committed to continuously improve performance by meeting international quality standards from completion, customer satisfaction, and enhancement of shareholders' value. Then, committed to improve overall to continuously attract, engage, retain, and develop human capital. Furthermore, Mudajaya Group wanted to continue to strengthen their position by collaborating with their key stakeholders to meet the current and future challenges of their business, creating value. Company short-term and long-term objective. There are no short-term objectives stated in the company. Meanwhile, for long-term, there are 7 objectives for Mudajaya Group Berhad. First, talent retention and attraction. That is service quality, governance, ethical supply chain, community welfare and well-being, technology, data security and privacy, customer health and safety, and the last one is product innovation.
Audio Hub Preview. Audio Hub Preview.
Hello everyone, my name is Song Xiaochen, metric number 26592. I will continue presenting the internal environment. For the risk management and internal control, the board takes all its responsibility for establishing and maintaining an adequate and effective risk management framework and internal control system. The board, with the assistance of the Audit Committee and Risk Management Committee, confirmed that there is an ongoing process of identifying, evaluating, and managing all significant risks. The Audit Committee and the Risk Management Committee assist the board on the oversight of risk management for identification, managing, and monitoring the principal risk of the group. The Risk Management Committee (RMC), chaired by the independent non-executive chairman, meet with certain directors and senior management on a 6-monthly basis to review and deliberate on the top risk and the risk management actions taken. The Audit Committee (AC), which is chaired by an independent non-executive director, is tasked by the board with the duty of reviewing and monitoring the effectiveness of the group's system of internal control with the assistance of the in-house IARMD. For organizational structure, as we all know, a company's board of directors is significant for the development of the company. They play a critical role in making decisions relating to strategy, high-level structure, and the appointment of the CEO. Since the board is critical to Mudajaya Group Health development, they need to be responsible for the company's results and affairs to achieve a high level of good governance. Okay, this is the board of directors in Mudajaya Group Heart. The first one is Dato Yusli bin Mohad Yusuf. He is non-independent, non-executive chairman. Ear James Wong Tae Fo. He is group managing director and he also is the chief executive officer. Lee Eng Long. He is non-independent executive director. Choi Ho-ping, he is Senior Independent Non-Executive Director. Dr. Wong Peng-chong, he is Independent Non-Executive Director. Dr. Amir Rafi bin Asman, he is Non-Independent Executive Director.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Shahida binti Rosli, metric number 267988. So I will continue the presentation on the risk of analysis. For our company, we have found 14 type of risk and will expanding on the impact and the risk response. First is credit risk. Credit risk is the risk of a financial loss if a customer or counterparty to a financial instrument fails to meet its contractual obligation. This risk is exposed to financial risk, which is arise from the inability to recover company's debt, which may affect the group's profitability, cash flows, and funding. The risk response is the company thoroughly manage the credit risk together with the leasing agreement. Second risk is liquidity risk, which is the risk that the group will not be able to meet its financial obligation as they fall due. The risk may affect the company having an insufficient funds to meet its financial commitments in a timely manner. To mitigate the risk, the group maintains a level of cash and cash equivalent bank facilities deemed adequate by the management. The third risk is interest rate risk, which is the group's and the company's fixed rate borrowing that is exposed to a risk of change in their fair value due to changes in interest rate, but the changes will not affect the profit or loss. The group and the company manage its interest rate exposure by maintaining a mix of fixed and floating rate loans and borrowings. The fourth risk is financial risk that is exposed to cyclical downturn, seamless project funding, diminishing and margins, and price volatility. The risk has an impact on both human and financial capital. It resulted in poor organizational performance, lower returns, and lack of productivity. To mitigate the risk, the company diversified the income source. And next is environment risk. The risks and consequences of an unintended accident are referred to as environmental risk. The risk gives impact to a number of accidents and have global impact. The group has established and will maintain procedures to educate all employees or persons working on behalf of the group on the importance of conformity with the HSE policy, procedures, and the requirement of the ISO. Next is bribery risk that is exposed to bribe and corruption. The impact is the investor will lose faith in the company and the company may lose the current investors. Bribery risk putting the company's reputation in jeopardy. Mudajaya has in place a whistleblowing policy and procedure to provide an avenue and mechanism to all employees and its stakeholders. Next is COVID-19 risk. The risk involved in health and safety issue. The risk is exposed to the changes of the normal operation of the company. Employees who have been infected with COVID-19 must isolate site workers, do contact tracing and swab tests, and other else. The company took proactive measures to ensure the well-being of all the employees by adhering all instruction, SOP, and guidelines from local authorities and the medical community. Compliance risk is a failure to behave in line with government rules, industry standard, or prescribed best practice. It could have either favorable or unfavorable effect on the group's operation, financial condition, and prospect. To maintain continual compliance and quality of reporting, the organization closely monitor and track the changes of the regulation. Next is foreign exchange risk, refers to the losses that an international financial transaction may incur due to currency fluctuation, it resulting in increase or decrease of the after-tax profit or loss. The group entered into a cross-currency interest rate swap to manage foreign currency risk. Then the employment risk is a risk that is inherent in an employee's job or work site. It affects the weak performance of contractors and shortage of skilled laborers and inability to attract talents with advanced skill. The response to the risk is the company invest in growth, learning and development of teams and strengthen management and the leadership's quality. So next is reputation risk, which is a top strategic business risk. A poorly managed reputation risk can swiftly evolve into a significant strategic disaster. The risk impacted the group's ability to maintain existing business relationship or establishing new relationship. The group's engagement with the stakeholders and the general public were undertaken via high-impact CSR program in collaboration with the NGO. Next is safety and health risk. The risk that exposed to accidents, transportation, damage, and faulty equipment. The risk may affect the capitals of financial, human, and intellectual. The risk response is the company operate with a set of stringent guidelines and minimum requirements for occupational health and safety management. Next is project development risk, which is the risk of being exposed to project delays, projects that fall short of expectation in terms of quality, and the risk may affect the project will be weak of quality, delay in project completion, and it spends more than budgeted expenses. The company closely monitor projects and land holdings and optimize the performance. The last risk is supply risk, the risk which exposed to the shortage of materials, inadequate resources, complex procurement procedures. The risk affects the manufacturer and financial capital, which is having inability to meet the expected deadlines. So the risk response is the company create a resource allocation strategy and make a list of long-term quality supplies. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name Nur Afifah binti Zakaria and my metric number 27391, and I'm going to explain on the risk assessment for Mudajaya Berhad. So for the first one is a credit risk. So credit risk is unlikely to happen and the impact is low to Mudajaya Berhad as the management has a credit policy in place and the exposure to credit risk is monitored on an ongoing basis. So in managing the credit risk of the trade receivable, the group manages its debtor and takes appropriate action to recover long overdue balance. For the second one is the liquidity risk. So liquidity risk, the likelihood for the company is unlikely and the impact is low to the company, as the company current ratio indicates that the group has adequate liquidity to meet its short-term obligation. And at the same time, the group and the company are able to handle their short-term commitment by utilizing their highly liquid investment. So for the third one is interest rate risk. For the interest rate risk, the likelihood of the risk is unlikely and have a low impact to the company. This is because stated in the company annual report 2020 that the change in interest rate at the end of the reporting period will not affect the company profit or loss. And at the same time, the group does not account for the fixed rate financial asset and liabilities at fair value to profit and loss and etc. So as a result, an interest rate change at the end of the reporting period has no impact on profit or loss. So for the fourth one is a financial risk. For the financial risk, the risk likelihood is unlikely and the impact is moderate to the company because the company have an alternative solution to avoid the risk. So for the fifth one is environmental risk. The environmental risk likelihood is high as the company is involved in the construction activity. It's become one of the most significant sector that cause emitting large amount of emission in atmosphere. So the impact to the company is moderate as the company address the carbon footprint to help their management to mitigating any negative effect of their corporation on climate change. So for a bribery risk, the company have a long-term plan that provide a whistleblowing policy and procedure in order to prevent a bribery occur in the company. Thus, I could say that the likelihood for the bribery risk is still possible. The bribery risk impact is moderate to high because it may lead to a financial damage for the company. So for the next one is COVID-19 risk. As we know that COVID-19 is still happening now, so the likelihood for the worker to expose to the COVID-19 risk is likely. The impact from the risk also have a high as the company need to stop the operation if the most of their employee is affected by the virus. So for the next one is the compliance risk. The compliance risk likelihood is possible and the impact to the company is moderate as the company have the secretary in charge to ensure that the company follow all the applicable standard and regulation required. So for the employment risk, the likelihood is possible and in the company and the impact is moderate, same as a reputation risk. And for the next one is a safety and health risk. because we know that the company is a construction company, so the likelihood of the occurrence is likely and the impact is high, because when it happens, it will cause the company an additional cost for damage. For the next one is project development risk. For project development risk is unlikely to occur, as the risk is under the company control. But if the quality is poor to manage the risk, the organization reputation will be affected. And for the impact of the project development risk is moderate and is related to the time taken to complete the project. For supply risk, the likelihood is fall under likely, and the impact is moderate to the company, but the supplier and business partner may be affected as well if the risk is occur. So for the last one is a foreign exchange risk. The likelihood to occur is unlikely, and the impact is moderate to the company, since the foreign exchange risk does not affect the entire financial position because it's changed over time. For Mudajaya Berhad, risk assessment metric can be tool to evaluate the likelihood and the impact of every risk that has already been identified. So the risk metric is essential for the company to concentrate on the most severe risks that may significantly interrupt the operation of the business. So other than that, using a risk metric, Mudajaya Berhad can manage their risk and the impact by develop a strategy and also the plan to respond to those risks. And the risk metric classify 14 risks that have been identified before. So the risks that are likely to occur and have a significant and high impact on the company is prioritized more than one that are unlikely to happen and have a low impact to the company. If we can look in the risk metric, we can see from the risk metric that the company will prioritize for the risk like a COVID-19 risk and a safety and health risk, as it have a high and likely to happen on the company, compared to a liquidity risk, interest rate risk, financial risk, foreign exchange risk, and a project and development risk. I think that's all from me, so thank you. Bye.
My name is Nur Najwa Akila binti Zulkafli with metric number 268078. Now I will present 6.0 risk management structure. So the board has established board committees, namely the audit committees AC, combined nomination and remuneration and Committee, CNRC, Risk Management Committee, RMC, Investment Committee, and Options Committee to assist the board with specific matters within their respective terms of reference. These board committees' terms of reference have been authorized by the board, but they are reviewed on a regular basis to ensure that they are adequate and relevant. Despite the fact that the board committees have specific authorized, the board stays informed to report from the chairman of the board committees and the minutes of the board committees meetings. The board, on the other hand, has a final decision-making authority. Reviewed the half-yearly enterprise risk management report submitted to the RMC and the appropriateness of management's responses to significant risk areas and proposed recommendations for mitigation. So these risk management reports were tabled to the board for notation. Now I will present 7.0 Risk Management Framework. So the board has the ultimate responsibility of approving the risk management framework and policy, as well as overseeing the group's risk management and internal control framework. The enterprise risk management system put in place is supplemented with a risk identification and mitigation procedures used during significant project tenders, so that if the project tender is won, project management will implement risk mitigation measures during project execution. Mudajaya recognized that risk control procedures must be applied to every aspect of management and operations in order to effectively mitigate risk and further our sustainability agenda. and that a robust risk management framework is required to address any potential threats to the organizations and enable rational decision making. The board certifies that it is ultimately responsible for designing and maintaining an adequate and effective risk management framework and internal control system that has been integrated into all aspects of the group's activities and operations. The board of directors established this framework to identify, evaluate, mitigate, and monitor the group's risk. The board, in collaboration with senior management, assesses the adequacy and effectiveness of the group's risk management framework and internal control system on a regular basis to ensure that the group's principal and relevant risks are managed within the group's risk appetite and tolerance. The group's risk management policy, risk management processes, and reporting structure are guided by a risk management framework as well as the standard operating policy and procedure which has been conveyed to the management team. For the financial year under review, the risk management framework and internal control system were deemed acceptable and performing properly. The board commits to pursuing the need for continual improvements in its internal control system and risk management process in order to meet its objectives, increase shareholder value, and ensure the business's long-term viability.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Adibana Nadia binti Zulkifli, matrix number 267750. Today I want to present about the suggestion and improvement for the Mudajaya Group Berhad. Risk management entails identifying, analyzing, and responding to risk factors that arise during business operation. Efficient risk management entails seeking to control future outcomes as much as possible by acting proactively rather than actively. As a result, effective risk management has the potential to reduce both the likelihood and magnitude of a risk. Mudajaya Group Berhad background and risk were assessed carefully. We have made several suggestions and improvements that may assist Mudajaya Group Berhad in improving their risk management practices. There are several risks that have been identified in the Mudajaya Group Berhad, which is credit risk, liquidity risk, interest rate risk, financial risk, environmental risk, bribery risk, COVID-19 risk, compliance risk, foreign exchange risk, employment risk, reputation risk, project development risk, and supply risk. These are the example of the suggestion and improvement for several risks that have been mentioned before, which is credit risk. The first step in effective credit risk management is to fully comprehend overall credit risk by looking at the risk at the individual, customer, and portfolio levels. By implementing an integrated quantitative credit risk solution is critical to reducing loan losses and ensuring that capital reserve accurately reflect the risk profile. Meanwhile, for the liquidity risk can be reduced through careful cash flow management, which includes improving working capital and keep unused and engaging financing facility or a liquidity buffer. This also enables the company to likely fulfill requirements or contingent liabilities. For the supply risk, it can be reduced by diversifying the supplier base. By diversifying supplier base, Mudajaya Group Berhad can reduce the risk impact. Engaging different suppliers, preferably in various locations, could perhaps enable Mudajaya Group Berhad to minimize the risk of localized issues affecting the supply chain. In today's corporate world, boards and management require somewhat more proper and extensive procedure to carry out their respective responsibility effectively. Directors can handle the group risk that is obviously the responsibility of management. However, the directors must provide control and a process must be in place to facilitate this oversight. One of the most efficient methods motivates director and executive is to recognize the significant risks that may be impact their business performance and value for their shareholders, and also to make sure that all those risks are adequately assessed and controlled. This also will provide a comprehensive approach to developing risk management capabilities that are regular, outlined, and controlled. That's all from me. Thank you.